Hello, YouTube. I got asked to give recommendations on books related to Japan and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you a bookshelf tour. Yes, this video is specifically for YouTube and it's shot not in vertical mode. I know that's crazy. I know everyone loves vertical videos. Every time I post a video, everyone's like, thank you so much for your vertical videos. They're great. We love vertical videos. Vertical videos are the best. But I'm trying something new. I want to experiment. And I know like no one's done this before. I don't even think there's a name for it. Like maybe my phone, it's flat, right? It reminds me of a horizon. So maybe we could call these, if it's vertical, we call these like horizontal videos or something like that. Anyway, this is my attempt at a new video format where I actually take up your entire screen, which is really rude. And I'm sorry to do that to you, but let's see how it goes. All right, so my bookshelf starts over here where you have a bunch of silly little Nendroids and things that I have. And of course, my own two books. The one on the right there, that's the newest one, and that's the one that I wrote that is based on my PhD plus some extra research. Yes, this is actually kind of an advertisement, but here we go. Over here, I have a number of magazines from Metallion. This is a Japanese metal magazine. These are all special issues on girls metal for a research project that I have actually not started and don't know if I ever will have time to, but they're pretty much in mint condition. Above it, though, I keep my books on music and subculture, etc. As you can see in the titles here. What Are You Doing Here is a very enjoyable one that I definitely recommend. It's a discussion of the author, a black woman's experience in the metal scene. Metal Rules the Globe is also a very, very interesting overview of metal scenes around the world. The Japanese chapter, I think, could have been better, but I do cite it a lot. This one, actually, I don't want to make anyone mad at me, but I was actually kind of disappointed in this. This was on like leftist politics in black metal, and I thought that'd be a really interesting topic, but I didn't get a whole lot out of it. Effective Intensities in Extreme Metal Scenes is a really cool comparison of Japanese and Australian scenes. I really like Japanoise and Hip Hop Japan, and then also this book here, Gengo Gakuteki Rappu, I have interviewed the author on my channel, but this is a really cool discussion of the linguistics of Japanese rap. These two books here, Tokyo Boogie Woogie and Sayonara America, Sayonara Nippon, these are a really nice kind of pair. They read really well together about kind of Japanese pop music, etc. And then Inside Subculture here is a bit of a classic, but it is a little bit hard to read, I will say. Over here then I have my dictionaries. I have not read these cover to cover, obviously, but I do like having them around. I got the 2-channel dictionary. Over here is a dictionary of Japanese insults. We have, this was a recent project on Japanese youth speak and slang, etc. I have a recent dictionary here on basically kanji characters. It's got a really cool, nice looking cover. That was a gift there on otaku slang for Chinese fandoms. I have a copy of the Kojien. It's old, but I need to get a new one. Oshikatsu in Eigo. Some more kanji ones, one about Ingo or Argot slang, nonverbal communication, Gokon, like different vibes. This is a really cool book on like Ateji and Atayomi, various things you see in manga, etc. I don't have a chance to use a lot of these. Another slang dictionary, Kotowaza dictionaries, etc. But yeah, they're useful. Here's the NHK Pitch Accent Dictionary, which I find to be very funny. I never use this for anything, but sometimes I like to whip it out and show I have it because it's useful to prove that it's a real thing that exists. This section is where I keep books on Japan that don't have anything to do with language. A lot of these I really, really enjoyed. I haven't gotten around to reading this one yet, unfortunately. This is a very, very interesting book if you like coffee. This is by a colleague of mine, which is a fascinating, really good book. We have books on like sex work in Japan, working in Japan in general. This is a classic on various Japanese subcultures, especially youth cultures and ones that go against the grain. This right here, A Concise History of Japan, is amazing if you need a concise history of Japan. It's absolutely fantastic. This right here is a weird one. This is a history of beer in Japan. It was this is not academic literature per se, but it was quite a good read, and it is a history. A lot of these are kind of outside my normal wheelhouse and books I don't cite that much, but they are books I'm glad to read. I like to read outside of my general area. I will say Sirens of the Western Shore here was really good. I was blown away by this book personally, talking about the femme fatale as an image throughout Japanese society, Japanese literature. Shots in the Dark is another one of those like myths of Japan books that's really good. This is a classic as well. Recreating Japanese Men was one of my favorite reads of last year. That's an edited collection that has a huge amount of just really excellent chapters on various masculinities in Japan. I really liked it a lot. These manga here are manga that I've all used in research to some extent. Some of these are my PhD, like Yawara, etc. I did research in my master's on the representations of non-native speakers. I still reference them every once in a while, use them in slides. And I've recently done projects on heterogenic linguistics and 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, so that's why they're here as well. This isn't all the manga I've ever used for data, but I keep them around for screenshots. For instance, I used Usagi Drop, Bunny Drop in my PhD thesis as well. And that's an excellent comic as long as you forget that the last volume exists. All right, down here we get down to books on sociolinguistics. These are handbooks, so, they're big, thick reads. It's very hard to recommend a handbook, but these ones are both good. I prefer this one especially, but if you have access via your library, for instance, at your university, these are both fairly new, so you can go in and check them out and see if there's any chapters that interest you. I have all the books that are in Japanese. Then here, this right here actually is a classic. It's old, it's out of date, like it doesn't read with modern theories and stuff like that, but it's about the history of young women playing with letters and characters in Japan. This was one of my favorite books that I read recently. It's a bunch of NHK surveys on changes to the Japanese language. This is absolute trash. This is one of the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. This is just like, this book is a book that made me re-question my belief that freedom of the press should exist. It's just Nihonjinro nonsense all the way through. I'm shocked that it got published. Like, it literally claims that Japanese words don't start with n because Japanese people's hips are in a different place than like African people's hips. It's bizarre. Hogen Kanji was a blast for me to read. I really, really liked this book. It's about different kanji used in different areas of Japan. Things like Hyakunen Mai no Nihongo or Kanazukai no Rekishi. These are really good primers on, well, Japanese 100 years ago and the history of kana usage. Nihongo to Kanji here is also about, Japan and kanji. This is a gorgeous book that just has a lot of great images of different writing in Japan. Even if you don't read Japanese, this is like a great coffee table book because of how nice the pictures are inside. Kunyomi no Hanashi was also a lot of fun if you want to learn more about like Jukujikun and the history of it. But honestly, out of all these, this one here, Seisho Hon no Nai Nihongo, this was one of the most important books I ever read. I read this during my PhD thesis. I need to read it again. I just don't have time. But this was the book that made me realize that I was doing the right thing because it helped show me what Japanese people already knew and what exactly I was contributing with my own research. As I think is really, like, one of the things I think is part of my job that's really important with it is taking Japanese research and citing it in English articles so that we get some access to that. All this stuff here is work on Yakuwarigo by Kinsui. He's quite famous. I'm not the biggest proponent of the theory, but I do keep up with it. This is a really fun and very accessible read by Momoko Nakamura on the use of su at the end of sentences. Nakamura Sensei's books are excellent because they're always really easy to read. She writes academic literature in a really accessible way. So if you're curious about, the su ending, this is what you should read. This book here, Honyaku ga Tsukuru Nihongo, is also recommended by her, and it's about how Japanese translation of English films and media is actually a place where a lot of Japanese forms are seen more than in everyday speech. Then you just have some journals and stuff like that. And then we move into English books on Japanese linguistics, etc. I'm in this book, therefore it's good. This right here is a book on study abroad experiences of Japanese people by a colleague and friend of mine, which is quite excellent. This was a really interesting book I read recently on language ideologies and L2 speaker legitimacy on the concept of native speaker bias. I actually didn't agree with everything I read in this book, but I'm very, very glad I read it. It was very, very interesting. Gottlieb here is an amazing scholar who's written a ton on the history of Japanese writing and writing reform. These two are very, very thick books. This one's more accessible if you want a history of Japanese writing. This was also a great recent read. Inoue is an amazing scholar, and I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed most of the books here. This one, though, I felt was a bit light, unfortunately, despite that I thought the topic was really, really good. This one here on news is one that I read a bit more recently, and I was actually shocked by how much I liked it. I didn't think I'd like reading about like news translation and stuff, but it was really fascinating. This right here is still, in my opinion, one of the best edited collections on Japanese language ever made. It's a bit out of date because it is like I think over a decade old now, but the range of chapters and the range of data is amazing. And if you're interested in research on Japanese language, it still is probably the best book in that category. Although, I will say that Japanese at Work here is also quite good and a bit more recent. And then, there's more Gottlieb, etc. And this is my PhD thesis, which is, cool. It's real. I'm not lying to you. All right, then we have kind of general linguistics book. Life in a New Language was a fantastic read, highly recommended. This is also a lovely book on the history of kanji and Chinese characters in cinema across Asia, and it's just gorgeous. Fun book on 2chan history, not the entirety of it, but a lot of it. There needs to be more books like this. There's still a lot to stay. This book I kind of hate read because it's very well written. The author obviously knows a lot about writing systems throughout Asia, but they hate them all, and it's really kind of unfortunate because of that. Because the internet is a classic, this is a really good edited collection about emoticons, Calmoji, and emoji, but it is a bit over-focused in the Japanese context. It would have been good to see a bit more outside of it, although it's not only Japanese, but there's like a lot of chapters. I really enjoyed this. This was probably one of the best books I read at the beginning of this year. Really excellent study on basically online slap fights on Chinese online communities dedicated to fandom. It was really a fascinating read. Script and Scribble and the History and Uncertain Future of Handwriting. I loved both these books. They're very accessible histories of English writing. This book by Handel is also amazing. This is what this should have been. Somebody who really, really knows a lot about a bunch of different writing systems, writes about it accessibly, and then also doesn't hate their topic, but actually can explain to you why they're interesting and cool and a cool way to write language. If you want an overview on like the history of Japanese, the history of Chinese, etc., and don't want something as thick as these ones over here, this is the recommend. This is the harder version of this book, basically. This is a textbook that I contributed to, and then these are a bunch of handbooks. This was quite interesting. I like reading about things around the world. This is like a must-read if you're a grad student, although maybe it's out of date. I don't know. It got assigned to me, that's why I've read it. This was really good. I really enjoyed this handbook, although it was a bit focused too much on European contexts. And I recently just did a review of this book, which was also quite nice and quite interesting. And same with this. It's hard to recommend an entire handbook, but I've read these handbooks and they're on my shelf, so they're pretty good. Dornier's is a classic for doing research on linguistics. And then, yeah, Stance, Signs of Difference, Eckert's works. These are all just, things kind of that every grad student eventually reads and then make it on your shelf and you become a professor. This was very, very interesting as well, although it's very thick. And then Agha here is also one of those, hey, you have to read this if you're going to do research in linguistics. But it's hard to recommend to like a casual reader because it is written in a very, very thick form. There are parts of this that I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around after years of reading this book. Then we have some stuff on understanding comics, making comics. These are amazing books if you're interested in the art of making comics, as I study manga sometimes, so I had to do it. This is a edited volume that had my first ever publication, which please don't read, it's embarrassing. I've never used these, but they're gorgeous, so that's why I bought them. And then I have a bunch of textbooks for reference, so I can make my own learning materials, etc., and make sure that I'm matching things. Again, a lot of people have asked me for recommendations for the JLPT. The Kanzen Master Series is the one that I use, and I still respect it quite a lot. I think it's a very, very good program. So there you go. That's my bookshelf. I hope it gave you some ideas for things to read. A lot of this is academic literature, so it is not necessarily easy reads, but if it's on my shelf, I probably recommend it, except for this. Bonus content, I forgot I had books at home. So this is a really good book about subcultures, the basics of them. I'm also reading Algo Speak, which I'm also really enjoying very much. And then we have this book here, which looks really interesting, but I haven't started it yet, so I can't tell you if it's good or not. And then also, here are some Japanese books that I'm hoping to read. I haven't gotten to them yet. This is by Nakamura, so I know it's going to be good, but I'm literally looking forward to it. Haven't opened it yet, though. Same with this book, which just has a really fun title. And then on top of that, we have Japanese Visual Kei, which is not about the music, but I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm working through this book now, which is on minus expressions. This is like rude things in Japanese. It's fairly dry, but it's useful to read. We've also got this book, which is Etymologies But Cats, and yeah, this is what it is. Collapse of Complex Societies looks really interesting. Only read a few chapters so far, though. And then this was gifted to me. I hope to read it soon, just cuz. We also have Urban Sociolinguistics. This is a really interesting book about the sociolinguistics of various urban spaces. The chapter on Tokyo is really good, unsurprising, because it's written by Patrick Heinrich. There's even a chapter on Sydney, which is really cool to see. And then I'm also almost done with this, which is called Typo Sampo. This is a really cool book where a guy goes around and like just takes pictures of interesting fonts that he sees in Japan. I love this book. I don't know if anyone else will, but it's so cool to me. Just see the various ways that Japanese can be written and the various fonts and stuff like that. So there you go. These are all books too. The end of the video. The end. Goodbye.